Hi, Lindsay. How are you today?
Hi, Aubrey. I'm doing great. How's everything in your world?
Excellent. I'm excited for this episode because we're talking about French words we use in English. And I
Yes.
speak French. I love French, so I'm
Yep.
excited about this.
I know French is your jam. So good stuff.
I have a question for you, though, here to dive
Okay.
in. How
Okay.
many French words do you think are used in the English language? What's your guess?
Oh, I would say many, I would guess.
So give us a
Maybe
number.
50,
Throw out a
50,
number.
50,
50?
25, 30, 40. I don't know.
7,000, Lindsay.
What? Wait.
7,000.
Are you serious? I'm
Yes,
shocked.
I was too, actually, because I could probably only name 50 off the top of my head, but it's
Wow.
fascinating because a lot of those words we don't say with a French accent. We anglicize them. We say them sort of with an English accent, and for many of them, we don't realize that they're actually from French.
Oh, I love that. I'm so excited. Okay, so we're going to learn a bit more today then. Really good. And I want to remind our listeners to hit the follow button on All Ears English if you believe in connection, not perfection like we do. So hit follow.
Yes,
So
if you're not following, you're missing amazing episodes
totally.
like 2137. This was just yesterday. This
Yeah.
Friday or next Friday, how to clarify calendar dates in
Mhm.
English. This can trip us up so often. Make sure scroll back and catch that episode if you missed it.
Oh my gosh, that was a really, really good one. Because I know a lot of our listeners get confused about this, next, last. It's confusing even for native speakers. So we go through that. We give you guys a good method to understand which state you're talking about so you don't miss a party or miss an event or leave someone,
Yes.
stand someone up, for example.
Amazing. So don't miss it. Hit follow so you never miss any of our great podcast
Yeah.
episodes.
Okay. Should I go ahead and read the question? This is for you, Aubrey, right?
Yes, this was emailed directly to me from Moro, maybe Moro.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. So the listener says, Mauro says, "Hi, Aubrey. What's shaking?" I
He got
think
that from you.
Mauro got it from others.
I love it.
As I know you're awesome in French, is there an episode on All Ears English about French words that Americans use in daily life? AEE rocks. Thanks, Mauro. Oh, I love it. I love it.
I know, such a great question. I emailed him right away and shared several episodes because we have discussed this before. You and Michelle did an amazing episode, 1458,
Right.
called This Episode Has a Certain Je ne sais quoi. And you shared a bunch, right? À la carte, préfixe, je ne sais quoi, like several words that we use in French that we often do sort of pronounce with a French accent.
Oh, I'm glad you found that episode. Yeah, because I knew
It's a
we had
good
done
one.
one and I was trying to think, where was that one? We also did one on Italian words somewhere in the back,
Mhm.
but today we're all about French. Yeah. Okay. So
Yes,
what else?
and just as a little, plug here, many French words are often used in business English, like repertoire and liaison, so I think we should do a
Mhm.
follow-up on business English as well, so be sure to hit follow on the
Mm,
business English podcast too.
good idea. Okay. So then, do we have an article we're bringing in today to inform our conversation?
Yes, this is going to be interesting. Today, our focus is a little different. We are sharing some French words that are often mispronounced in English from
Okay.
an article that was called 21 French Words English Speakers Might Be Mispronouncing. This is from Eurolinguist.com. And this was interesting because I have heard people say, like, oh, my pet peeve is when people say, and then sometimes it'll be a word from French. I've heard this. So this was written by Shannon Kennedy. And
Hmm.
we're going to share a couple of words that she's just a few. You can check out that article if you want to see all of them. But
I
I
love
kind of
it.
wanted to discuss the title here, Lindsay. What do you think when you hear about mispronunciation?
I just think it's funny. It makes me think of, yeah, because I'm looking at what we're going to teach, and I've definitely heard family members mispronounce these words in this way. I think that when a word moves over into another language, it's kind of redefined a little bit.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. I think that English words have been moved over to other languages, maybe French less, maybe Spanish more, for example, but the pronunciation changes over there too. And maybe the
Right.
meaning changes slightly. And this is what happens is we're globalization, right?
Exactly. So it's interesting because with regional dialects and accents, it's kind of tricky to say that there's a right or wrong pronunciation, to call something a mispronunciation. But there is definitely a sort of standard accepted pronunciation for words, and then anything else would be considered a variant. But I think it's tricky because I have seen quite a few, native English speakers that will have sort of a pet peeve of the way someone pronounces a word because it's different from how they pronounce it. And this can get a little tricky, right? Because I just feel like like we say all the time, connection, not perfection. So if anyone out there is sort of judging someone else's pronunciation,
Yeah.
think about like, is there really an incorrect pronunciation?
Yeah, this is a really interesting conversation to be having with you, Aubrey, because you are fluent in French. So you know how to pronounce these correctly. But
Yes.
you're also a real advocate for speaking with the people. Like you
Yes.
want to, we've talked extensively on the show. How do you make your language match who you're around so you get that connection and you don't make people feel alienated? So I'm interested to see what you think here.
Yes, this is going to be great. So let's dive into these. Many of our listeners do want to know like the standard correct pronunciation because they may hear all these variants and they're not sure which one to go with. So I think this will be really useful for you listeners, and it can be confusing when native speakers pronounce things differently. So let's dive
Yeah.
in with number one.
Okay, so now I'm afraid to say it because I'm afraid I'm going to say it
I'll say
wrong.
it
So
for
you
us,
better
right?
introduce the words in French.
So this word is voila, and it just means like, there you go, there it is. It's an exclamation.
There it is.
But what's the mistake that we sometimes hear? Or at
Well,
least what's
my
the variant that we sometimes hear?
and my dad used to say this all the time. So a native speaker will say voila.
Exactly, right?
It
Instead of
sounds
the
awful.
V, they'll make it a W. Voila.
And also the L. I think there's a little L thing
Mm.
going on where the L is much more Anglo there. But I can't really go into too much detail there. So they'll say voila, voila.
Yes.
Sounds like nails on a chalkboard if you know even a little bit of what it's supposed to sound like. Even if you can't pronounce it correctly, it sounds awful, but it also sounds very, very natural.
Yes, it's so fascinating because, yeah, some people would say, like, oh, this is my pet peeve. It's nails on a chalkboard when someone says this incorrectly. Having grown up in the Northwest where we have a regional dialect, we have some variants that are non standard. I'm more forgiving, right? I'm more
Yeah,
accepting. I'm realizing I don't always say things the way the standard accepted pronunciation.
of
So
course.
I'm not really judgmental, but I understand why people are. I just feel like pronunciation is so tricky, especially in the US.
Yeah, so I feel like today we don't necessarily have like this isn't a prescriptive episode, right? Aubrey, like one way or the
Right.
other. We just want to let you know this is kind of a conversation that happens in our language, in our culture.
Definite
So do we have a
definitely.
role play just to show
Yes,
this
just
a
to
little
show
bit?
how this is used in a sentence, right? It definitely standard accepted pronunciation and how it is said in French is with the V sound, voila. So let's
Okay.
do a little role play here.
Okay. Oh, Aubrey, I can't wait to see the cake that you brought.
Voila.
All right. So the idea is you are bringing the
Like, well,
cake
here it is. I'm
and
showing
you're
it to you.
showing it, right? Here it is. I love it. So good. All right. Okay, Aubrey, let's move on to number 2. That second word. Geez, I didn't even know that this was a French word actually. This next one.
Yes, niche is a French word. And what's really interesting is the variant, it sounds very different. It's niche. And here's what's fascinating. Growing up, I thought there were two separate words. I thought niche was spelled Nitch, and it's like a pop out, a cutout in a wall where you could put a plant or a painting or something. That was a niche. And
Oh,
then niche, I used very differently, right? Because this
interesting.
noun actually has three meanings. Some of them I pronounced niche, and some I pronounced niche.
Oh, that is so interesting. Maybe the word you were
Mhm.
looking for was like nook. I like the word nook. There's a little nook,
Mhm.
like a breakfast nook, a little space where you could put a table or an item in a house, a little corner. Is that the word? Maybe, but
No.
it's niche.
It's just niche, and because I hadn't seen it written, it is the word niche, and this is one of the definitions of this word, is a shallow
Oh,
recess, especially one in a wall to display a statue or other ornament. Like you might say, "I want
interesting.
to hang a painting in their niche," but in my regional dialect, we say niche. If I went to Idaho and tried to call that a niche, people would look at me strange because we all say
Right.
niche.
And that's where we talk about speaking for who you want to connect with in person. You're
I would
there.
never say niche there. They would feel
No.
so judged, I would look so pretentious.
But what about for the idea of like IELTS is a niche within ESL. Would you
Exactly.
use
So
it
let's
in that
go
way?
over these different meanings
Okay.
because this word has three meanings
Mm.
as a noun. The
Yeah.
first one is a comfortable or suitable position in life or like in employment. You might say, I'm really happy with my new job. I think
O-
I found my niche.
Okay. Okay.
And you would never pronounce that niche. That's what's
Niche.
fascinating. It's only the cutout in the wall where we say niche.
That's real. I think a lot of native speakers are confused about this, to be honest.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Someone will say niche, and like, what are you
I
even
knit.
saying?
Okay, you mean your little nook in the house? Is that what you mean? Right? Number 2, a specialized segment of the market for a particular kind of product or service. This is where we mention IELTS, right? She's
Yes,
writing for a very niche audience. Interesting. Here we're using it as an
yes.
adjective, right?
Exactly, right? IELTS is a very niche exam. That means it's very particular. It's very specific. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, these are oh yes, this is true. That's true. We've got it as an adjective there. So it's an
Mhm.
adjective, it's a noun. We use it so many different ways. And
Yeah.
then also this, part of a house that some people call it a niche. Some people pronounce this word a niche, some
Hmm.
niche.
Fascinating. Fascinating. So, okay. So, in general, any advice here? I mean, not prescriptive today, right? We just know that
We are sharing the standard accepted pronunciation in the US, right? In French, this word is pronounced niche, and standard US pronunciation is niche for all of these things. So
yeah.
if you end up moving to the Northwest and you hear everyone else calling this space in a wall a niche, absolutely you can say that. But on an exam, in a job interview, you would definitely want to use the standard accepted pronunciation, niche.
Love it. Okay. Third one, genre. Ooh, am I saying that right?
That is correct. You said that
Okay, good.
perfectly. That is the
You.
French pronunciation genre. It means a type or class, but it's often pronounced with the harder G, genre, genre. It's sort of
Genre.
just anglicized that way. And sometimes people add an extra E to make this 3 syllables, like genre or genre.
Oh, it's hard for me to hear the difference. So, okay, the correct French pronunciation is what, Aubrey? Tell us again.
Genre.
Genre.
Genre, genre,
Okay. And
genre.
what is the quote unquote mistake that native English speakers sometimes make, or how do
That
we say it here?
harder j sound,
Okay.
genre,
Genre.
genre. We're
Genre.
sort of just looking at it and saying it with an English accent.
I see. Okay. So this one's a little less blatant, right? The difference, but
Yes,
it's
less
slightly
noticeable.
tweaked for better or for worse. And then, but we do use this for conversation a lot, right?
Absolutely, you might say, "What genre of music do you love? What genre of film do you prefer?"
Yeah, for sure. I mean, do you like the genre, the horror genre, for example? Do you like horror movies?
Exactly. Yeah,
Will
I
you watch
don't
a horror movie?
mind.
You
I
don't
don't
mind them?
love it tons of, like, gore, blood and
Yeah,
guts. I
sure.
prefer a suspenseful
Suspense.
horror film. What about you?
Yeah, that's what I like too.
Mhm.
But I like rom-coms, a good old rom-com, even an older one. I like to watch them on planes,
Classic genre.
nostalgic.
Yes,
Yeah, for sure.
absolutely.
Okay, role play time. So, what are we doing here?
So, your new neighbor in this role play. You're visiting me, your new neighbor.
All right. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you, come on in. Sorry my house is a mess. I have 4 kids, so voila.
I love the painting in your niche.
Thank you.
And you're playing folk music. That's my favorite genre.
That is awesome. It's a bit niche, so I don't have many friends who like it.
Oh, I wasn't sure if I should have said niche.
So yeah, I think niche is one of the biggest takeaways where it's so funny for me and from a lot of people from the Northwest. We're absolutely going to say niche. We know what you're saying, but even here in Arizona, most people will say niche for that pop out. So I've sort of stopped saying it, and this is one where it becomes a little more glaring, the
Yeah.
variance in your pronunciation from your regional dialect. So I would definitely say niche, Lindsay, because I think niche, not everyone would know what you mean.
That's I didn't even know until today that that was a
That's
word,
new.
like, regarding a piece of a house, like a yeah,
Oh.
corner in a house. I thought it was just for a specialization or a corner of the market or a
Oh,
profession. So that's
interesting. And it's not
interesting.
even like a corner of your house. It's imagine right here on this wall behind me, if there it was like a
Mhm.
cut out space, but high up on the wall. And it's meant to be decorative. It's meant to put a picture in that
Oh,
cutout or like a
oh,
vase on the little shelf that's created. And they're here in Arizona, houses are built with these a ton. I have a ton of niches here at my home.
really
But yeah, it's not
interesting.
like a nook. It's not like a corner of the house. It's a cutout of the wall that's meant to
Hmm.
be decorative. They're getting a little dated now. People are filling them in. They're like flattening the wall
Oh,
and getting
fascinating. I
rid of
wonder
them.
If it's a so when was your house built? How old is your house? Is it like 90s,
2002.
2002? Okay, this might be because development is new in the Phoenix suburbs, right? So this
Yes,
might be an aughts era
probably.
architecture because here in Denver, a lot of the houses are kind of bungalow style and
Mm,
they're older, I think from like just post World War II or something like that. But by the way, you mentioned we don't have those as much, but you mentioned
gotcha.
vase. That might be another one. Is that a French word?
I
Vase? I don't
believe
know.
was. Hmm.
Maybe that's another episode for another day because most people
Do
say
you say
vase, some
vase?
people say vase. I say vase, but I do know there are people that say vase, and you are one of them, Aubrey.
I go back and forth. I go back and forth because I hear both. I think I grew
Yeah,
up saying vase,
yeah.
but I think my partner's family says vase, so I've sort of adopted that.
Interesting, fascinating. Okay, okay.
Variants, right? Who's
We'll
to
come
say
back to
who's
it.
correct?
We'll come back to it later.
Yes, that's a good one.
All right, so let's just go through it briefly. So, what did we do here? Let's
Yeah, so
see.
you're welcome me. I said, "Sorry, my house is a mess." And I said, this is often how I would use "voilà" is to,
That's
like, be like, "Okay, it's a mess. I have 4 kids. Voilà.
I,
There it is. There's the mess."
I like that use. I think it's kind of self-deprecating. It's funny. It's here I am.
Right? This is me being authentic.
Yeah, I like that actually. That's creative. So our listeners, guys, think about how you could use it in that way. Just saying,
Mhm.
here's my authentic self. Okay. Voila.
Yeah.
And then I said, I love the painting in your niche. And again, if you are in the Pacific Northwest and people around you are saying niche, fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yes.
And then you said, "Oh, you're playing folk music. That's my favorite genre." And was pronounced just like the French genre.
Right. And then you said, that's awesome. It's a bit niche. So I don't have many friends who like it. And again, that's using that more French pronunciation, right?
Exactly, right? Niche and meaning like it's a little specific. Not everybody likes folk music. So here I am excited to have met this neighbor. And it's funny thinking through because I keep saying, oh, just like the French, but we're still anglicizing, right? The word
Mhm.
genre, we're still sort of saying the R like we say in the States. In French, it would be genre
Right.
with that R in the back of your throat, like French. But rarely, most English speakers don't speak French, and so they won't be able to do that French R, so we have to anglicize it a little bit, which is
Yeah,
okay,
of course. If you think about it, there's no way that we could and the same on the other side, if
right?
like if the word cool moves to the Spanish language, it becomes cool, right? Like it's always going to happen. And I think it's
Yes.
okay. I mean, this
And
is
we love accents. I love a French accent in English, a Spanish accent in English,
love
right?
it.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. So this is what's tricky. If we start correcting someone's pronunciation,
Oh my gosh,
then
no.
people might start feeling self-conscious about their accent. We don't want that. As long as our
Yes.
message is clear, all of the different accents are beautiful and all of the different variants of the pronunciation of these words are fun.
And I think the other takeaway today is bring in as you are speaking English with native speakers or non-native speakers, bring in words from other languages that you know about, like that example, voila, here I am. It's fun, right? Don't just stick to English words. That
Exactly.
shows that you're a global citizen, that you're aware of other languages, and I guess it makes you more interesting. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. If there are
Yeah.
7,000 French words in it, we should be
Oh
using
my
them.
gosh, 7,000. Yes, choose 1 or 2 at the very least.
Right.
So which one are you gonna choose? Maybe we'll do a little poll today and we'll,
Ooh, I
see
like
which
that.
ones are your favorite to use and which ones you're gonna implement right away, guys. So very good stuff, guys. Go over to YouTube to check out our show. The show is on YouTube 4 days a week. So we'll see you over there. All
Awesome.
right.
Thanks. See you next time, Lindsay.
Bye, Aubrey. Have a good one.
Bye. You too.